Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Leading with Heart. My name's Vanessa-Mary and I am I can never say it, an holistic well-being healer. I might drop the holistic, but I am. But anyway, it's me. And you know what? This is my third podcast this week. So you'd think that my introduction would be a little bit more slick, but I'll let you into a secret. I've just come back from the gym. So I am feeling a little bit hot, but let me tell you all about this podcast. So this is called Leading with Heart, and it is where I am shining the light on the everyday journeys of men and women who work in their business. So I'm calling them self-employed mums and dads, but some of the conversations may be with family-led business owners. So these might be family members working together in a business. So we're talking about the human side of leadership. We talk about their stories, their struggles, their strengths, and things that are shaping the business, but also family life. Very important. This is an open conversation where we talk about emotional well-being. So I specialize in emotional well-being, and we're going to talk about strategy, succession planning, talk about sales. We're going to talk about challenges and all those things that we have to balance when we're running our business. So my guests are wonderful heart-led men and women. They're honest and they offer insights and encouragement from their specific expertise. Now, today, I've got a very special guest with me. We're working closely together. We've got a very exciting announcement to make as well, so we'll share that later on in the call. But for now, please help me to welcome Emma Oldershaw, who is a hypnotherapist. Here she is, and she's an author as well, so that was the surprise. So we're going to talk about that as well. How are you, Emma?
I'm really good, thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, really, really excited to be on your podcast today.
Thank you. Like I said, it's the third one that I've done this week, so you would think I'd be a bit more, but I did have a little bit of a break over the summer. That's why they're seeing a lot of me. But Emma, tell us about yourself. You can start with, tell us about your hypnotherapy, first of all. I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, sure. I started up a hypnotherapy business just over 2 years ago now. So I had originally had a background as a solicitor, and I decided to make a career change very unexpectedly. I went to a hypnotherapist for some private therapy of my own and was really interested in what they were doing. And from there, had a conversation and enrolled on some training, which led me to set up my own business. So I've been running that now for just over 2 years. And I essentially treat, I've got loads of different clients. I've got adults, I've got teenagers. We will talk later about schools and particularly home educating parents, which I am one of. I have a lot of teenagers coming to me who self-harm, who don't want to be in schools, who don't attend schools, who find schools very difficult. I've also got adult clients, and that can be anything from anxiety to bereavement to dysfunctional family relationships, childhood trauma, all kinds of stuff. I really do get a mixed bag of people coming through, which I love because it keeps me on my toes. It gives me challenges every day to push myself further as a therapist and to learn and to keep growing, which I think is really important in this kind of work, is to not become complacent, to keep growing, to keep pushing yourself, to keep finding new avenues of thought. And it helps me to grow as a person by treating the people I treat. So in the 2 years that I've done the job, I have also written 4 books, 2 for children, which are children's wellbeing, little stories, but with really lovely wellbeing messages, and then 2 for adults, which we're going to talk about one of those shortly.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, did you hear feedback?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, right. It sounded a bit weird. I was going to say that's incredible, Emma. I wanted to go back a little bit deeper about hypnotherapy before we talk about you as an author.
Sure, yeah.
I know that you said that you covered quite a lot of different reasons why people are coming forward. But,
Yes.
What's really triggering people to make that decision? Is that something that you're aware of? Have you noticed any patterns with that at all?
People tend to come and they don't know why they're here. I find that is a really common thing, is people will come and they'll know that something's not right, but they don't know what it is at that point. They come in and they'll say, something's just not right. And they might have some ideas about what that could be, or they might have no idea at all about what that is. And I think what I've noticed about trauma particularly is that sometimes it's so deep that we don't know that how it's affecting us, because we've buried it so deep. And actually, interestingly, it can also come through your DNA. So sometimes the trauma you carry isn't even yours. It could come from your parents or even your grandparents. So it could even be trauma that you are not consciously aware of. But if you've got like tension in your body, or you're finding yourself that quite anxious all the time, or a lot of the time, or you're having unexplained sort of panic attacks, or you're finding yourself quite irritated and frustrated a lot of the time, these are all signs that you could be carrying something that needs to be addressed at a deeper level. So they'll come in with an inkling, and then we start to uncover. I start to just ask the questions to uncover what is going on. And then normally through hypnosis, I specialize really in inner child healing. So I'm talking about going back and closing off that childhood trauma that we have. And when I say trauma, I don't mean blame, and I don't mean shame, and I don't mean, God, this was my parents' fault, or God, this was someone's fault, because that's not what we're doing. And trauma doesn't have to be one big event either. It can be a series of events over time that add up to become something that affects us. So it doesn't have to be. A lot of people say, well, I don't have trauma. There's no big event in my life that's happened. And there doesn't have to be. If you think about school bullying and how that chips away at us over time, it might not be one incident of bullying that's caused the trauma. It could be the bullying over the course of an entire school year that has caused the trauma, because it's layered up those messages. So you then end up with a big layer of stuff that's going to affect how you're living. So it's really interesting work, and I can tailor my hypnotherapy to, I don't use a script or anything. I know some hypnotherapists do. I'm very bespoke in how I tailor it to the client. So I'm very careful to use their language, their metaphors, their imagery that they've brought to me. I'm listening all the time for what they're saying. And then I can go in and help to close off that trauma at a deeper level for them.
Wow, very interesting. I can hear a little bit of feedback, but you're saying it sounds okay. Well, do you know what, Emma? I was just listening, and like I said, I specialize in emotional fitness. So this is looking at emotions that have been buried, and things have happened, and we've not addressed them on that emotional level, and how that can impact us. But the inner child healing is so fascinating. I mean, I've done inner child healing literally through my training, doing emotional fitness, and also some additional work. And I needed it, to be quite honest with you. I really did need it. But I want to touch upon the fact that, it's very different worlds that you've come from, being a solicitor and then now being a hypnotherapist and an author. I said, I've interviewed a solicitor, Nicole, this week, actually. And I said on that call, I said, last year, I was really wanting to get in contact with solicitors and I couldn't find any. And then now I'm surrounded by loads of them. So you're one of them, even though you're not a practicing a legal expert anymore. But I just wanted to let the audience know that today's conversation is going to be slightly different. So normally I do speak to my guests around the SEEDS framework, but we're not talking about that today. I will have Emma back on another episode and we'll dig deep onto her responses around that. Today we're really focusing on Emma as an author. So, as she's just said, she has written 4 books. But Emma, something exciting is happening. Do you want to give us an idea of what's going on with you as an author, please?
Yeah, definitely. So I have currently just released my 4th book, which is another adult book. So I've got 2 adult self-help books out now. This one, which I've actually got here, is called Whose Stuff Is It Anyway? And the tagline is own your stuff, burn the baggage, and make space for more you. So I was really interested when I wrote this book about dynamics in relationships and when we interact with one another, what's coming from us, as in what's our stuff, and what is coming from the other person, what's their stuff. So I've been really interested in observing some situations between people that kind of escalate quite quickly because they're not differentiating between whose stuff is what. And sometimes we project our own stuff onto other people and we don't want to own it. And sometimes we allow other people's stuff to become internalized as part of our own narrative. And that can be quite damaging. So I was really interested to write about this and to really dig quite deep. It's quite a thick book, to dig quite deep into this and to really educate and inform people about how that might be playing out in your own relationships, with your family, your friends, your work colleagues, all of these people that we interact with on a daily basis. So it is launching online next week, next Thursday, the 25th at 7 p.m. There is a free online launch on Zoom where people can come along and take part in some conversation. There will be promotional events which are exclusive to launch members. So if you're out on the launch, you are then eligible for some special promotions. We have got a raffle prize to be won. And we have got also promotions on my new workshop. So I am running through October on 2 different sessions. A workshop about breaking free from people pleasing, which is something that comes up a lot in my therapy room. People say, that they're aware they do it, but they don't know how to stop doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a little
first. Putting yourself first. Sorry to interrupt you. Putting yourself first. I mean, this is the thing, Emma. Just going back to me today, I was actually in 2 dilemmas. Do I go to the gym or do I not go to the gym and literally be here? And I was like, no, I have to go to the gym. I didn't do it this week. And I had a conversation with a friend on the podcast, actually, Rick. So shout out to Rick, who was like, well, a bad workout is better than no workout at all. And actually, it was thinking about what he said that made me get up today. I was like, no, I'm going to the gym. I might be about 5 minutes late for Emma by the time I come back, change, put makeup on and everything, but I'm putting myself first. Because actually, Emma, I did some kind of personality test when I was working at the university. Bearing in mind, I did work in research support team. So my role was to support the academics. Now, surprise, surprise, I am a people pleaser. Like, who would have known to be in this type of role that I do, supporting others? I score highly as a people pleaser, but I do need to put myself first. So I'm definitely going to be on the book launch with you next Thursday. And also I will be checking out that workshop myself because like you said, we fall into this, but we don't know why. And, you know, the title of my podcast here is Leading with Heart. I think when you are a heart-led individual, man or woman, then it's like you're wanting to serve and you're wanting to give that love and pour that love into others as well. And that's what happens. So yeah, very, very interesting. So we're going to put the link underneath the comments. I've realized actually that when I try and put comments on it's strange how it comes through, because the link doesn't always show, so I have to actually wait until it's uploaded properly, then put the comments in. So if you don't see the link straight away, don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I'm just making sure you can go straight in. So that's at 7 o'clock next Thursday, the 25th of September, with Emma. I'm so excited and really happy for you, and we are getting a lot of interest in that as well, so it's going to be a really good evening. All right, Emma. So you mentioned about self-harm, and I just wanted to touch on the fact that last week, I don't know if it was National Suicide Week or Suicide, I don't know if it was a week or a day. Some people had been posting about it. Unfortunately, it wasn't in my calendar of like events, so I missed that one. But is that something that you were aware of last week? Were you talking about the prevention of suicide at all last week?
I was aware of it, and I have been engaging with a local self-harm community support group who I'm actually meeting up with next week to do some fundraising for, because I'm quite interested in helping them to get their self-harm kits into schools. So they work to try to get self-harm distraction kits into high schools so that it reduces the urge for students to engage in self-harming behaviour. And I've been working really closely with them over the last few weeks to try to get some fundraising done as a collaborative effort with them to get these kits into schools, because I just think even when I was at school, I never self-harmed in the way of like cutting, but it crossed my mind. For sure, it crossed my mind. And in my book, I've written a poem that's quite a raw poem about school bullying, which is something that I was subjected to for a long part of my high school journey, which led me to have some really damaging beliefs about myself that took me a long time to get rid of. They still haven't gone completely, despite all the work I've been doing on myself. They still linger and they still manifest now and again. They pop up. So for me, this is really important, because actually we need to be educating schools to be more trauma informed and to be more aware of what to look for, and how damaging it can be for people when we talk about that sustained trauma through bullying over a sustained period of time. The effect on me was huge, and although I wasn't self-harming in terms of cutting, I did take up smoking, which is a form of self-harm because you're damaging your body. So self-harm is not just cutting and burning yourself. It is what you put into your body as well, which is a bit, people don't get that sometimes.
You've just, I was literally writing down here, what is self-harm, because you're right, not all of us. So you could literally, again, as a hypnotherapist, and no, you don't specialize in this, but there are hypnotherapists that specialize in weight management, for example. So, you know, you could argue that anything that you're doing to excess, you know, smoking, drinking, people that fall into taking drugs, overeating, undereating, you know, it can be classed as like, why are you not looking after yourself? What is it? And, you know, I'm not a therapist in that respect, but it's like I do try and get people to ask themselves the question. We were talking about smoking was it on Sunday? So I have a reading group on a Sunday, and in the week we read more like personal development stuff. But on Sunday, we're reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So I'm just looking at the books. I have it here.
Okay.
By Dr. Joe Dispenza. Very, very good book. Now he's talking about evolving your brain, but the chapter that we was reading from was overcoming your body. So we're in chapter 3 at the moment, and I was given the example of, you know, I don't mean to shame my family if any of my family do listen to this, but on my dad's side of the family, it's a family of smokers essentially, and I became a smoker. And my decision to quit, I tried it when I was 30, tried to give up when I was in my 30s because I was like, oh, I don't really like this. I don't think, like you said, whose stuff is it anyway? I was like, I don't really think it's me, but I'm doing it, you know. And that didn't work. I think I gave up for about 2 years and I started hanging around with non-smokers. I made a very conscious, I know it sounds awful, but I made a conscious decision. Anybody who was smoking, I wasn't actually going to hang around with them. But anyway, then I fell back into smoking, and it was the arrival of my granddaughter. So my granddaughter will be 10 next month. And I was in the room when she arrived, and I don't know what it was, Emma. I was thinking lots of different thoughts, safety about my daughter, joy, everybody's happy. But one thing that came through to me was, I don't know if it was in that moment or afterwards, I was like, I don't want her to know that I smoke. And I just made that decision there and then, like, I'm not going to smoke anymore. My granddaughter, so if she listens to this video, of course, she'll be like, you used to smoke, but she's never seen me smoking. She doesn't know me. That identity is not me in terms of how she thinks about me. So it's very interesting. I knew I was self-harming and I want to be around for my grandchildren. Yeah. So just wanted to add that. Speaking about grandchildren, my granddaughters are home ed. You're a home educating family. We're a home educating family. We've spoken about schools a little bit. So before we dive deep into home ed, let's just bring us in terms of like what's happening in schools, again, what you're noticing as a therapist, and then we'll talk about us as educating families.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I took my daughter out of school. She did start in a school, and it was a lovely little village school, very similar to my village primary school back in the 80s when I was in school. And that was fine. We had a few little issues, but nothing major there. It was very, very supportive. And then we moved house. And when we moved house, we moved into a town. And the school that she would start here was a middle school in year 3. So she started off with a whole new intake of people anyway, because everyone else was joining in year 3. And I put her in, and it was massive. I think the class sizes now are so big that we are not actually able to cater for the children that need the most support, and there is not the support in schools for people who don't fit the box. And this is not about me blaming any teachers. I've had some fabulous teachers through my life. I've been very lucky to know some incredible teachers, and in fact some of my friends are teachers working on the front line of an extremely difficult system, and I hear from them the frustration that they carry. And I know teachers that have left the profession because they just cannot align with it anymore. And I feel for them, I do. And it's not about blaming these people. It is at a much higher level. It is at a much higher government level where we are just not investing in the structure of education. We're not investing in the well-being of pupils. The class sizes are too big. It's all about attainment, achievement, bums on seats, very draconian fines for taking your child out of school. I was called to an attendance meeting because my daughter had 3 days off, and they said that warranted me going in and being dragged over the coals and having a meeting. And I'd actually taken her out for 3 days to take her to Lapland on the trip of a lifetime, which we had saved for, which gave her an education in terms of a different culture, a different country, a different language, snow like we'd never seen and will never see in this country, a country that has 5 hours of daylight, a very different way of living. She experienced a whole different life that she would never have seen. And you really have to see places like that to believe them. And she really still talks about that. And we went there 2 years ago, and she still talks about it now and remembers it. I was told by the deputy head teacher that if we fail at school, we fail at life. And that was the motto that he presented to me in the meeting, at which point I said, is that what you tell the children? Because if that is what you're telling primary school aged children, that if they fail their exams, if they miss a day of schooling, they failed in their entire life. They're carrying a narrative through the rest of their adult life that whatever they do is going to be wrong. If they miss one day of work, if they don't pass their driving test at the first time of asking, if a relationship breaks down, you're reinforcing a narrative of failure that they've learned in school, and we shouldn't be giving that narrative to children. It's really damaging. And actually, I remember at school being told that I was somebody who was a bit of a loner. I didn't interact with people, and that was seen as being a failure. I was seen as somebody who had failed because I didn't want to interact with people. But the reason I didn't want to interact with them is because they were making my life so miserable. So I was better off keeping away from it. So what was actually self-preservation for me was seen as failure by the teacher. And I see it so many times. I see a lot of children with anxiety now who are self-harming. They're now not allowed to go to the toilet during lesson times unless they have a toilet pass. So they can't just go for a wee. Obviously, if you're a girl, that's got some quite serious repercussions in terms of pad changing, etc.
Yeah.
You're having to wait until break time to change a pad.
Wow.
There are some very odd rules. Children are struggling with mixed messages because teachers are bringing in fizzy drinks and having them in front of the class and then telling the children they have to drink water. So again, it's mixed messaging. I've heard that from one of my clients.
Can you just pause a minute though, Emma, because you've actually, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely amazing. I just want to unpack it a little bit so we don't lose this message of what you said here. So fundamentally, going back to the class sizes and home education in general, what I know from my research is there was a time in society when very, let's just say, well off, it was more like the owners of the factory, okay, their children were home educated, let's just get that out there, okay, and it was the children who were seen as the lower classes were the ones who were sent into school. Now the class sizes, what you speak about, is very, again, an interesting point in terms of our family. So when I say our family, I'm talking about my daughter and her daughters. We spoke about home educating really from my daughter was carrying her daughter. So even though my son is 6, he technically wasn't conceived then, he wasn't around. So even becoming a grandmother, I knew this is what my daughter wanted to do. So within our immediate family here, we have my granddaughter who's nearly 10. Then we have one who will be, I think she's going to be like 7. And then I have Zenta who's 6. I get confused because they're very close in age. So can you imagine, like, and ours have never been in the school system. So it wasn't a case of we put them in and then we took them out. They've never actually been enrolled. So a lot of the home educating mums and dads that I meet, like you said for yourself, they actually enrolled their little one onto the school system. I'm sorry that you had to face all of that, you know, things that you've just described there from the head teacher. One thing I wanted to come back on with that is, how do we learn? You know, it's not a failure. You know, we're business owners, for example. Are we saying that the failures that we see in our business is written us off? No, we're going to learn from that and we're going to grow from that. And in not just in history, right now in modern day life, there are so many very successful individuals who actually never finished a formal education, but they are very successful individuals in business. That is what I'm thinking of in particular. I know that if you're going to go into a more corporate background, they're going to want to have that more formalized education for you. But there are lots of business owners who technically didn't finish school. So I just wanted to bring that in. because I don't feel that there's judgment now, but I must say that 5 years ago, when Zenta was a little one and I was just getting started with other mums in the area doing wellbeing activities, and they were already thinking about which nursery their little one was going to go to, which school, I would just sit there quiet, and then they would be like, oh, why are you not saying anything? I'm like, oh, because we're not putting our little one into school. He's going to be home ed. And like I said, I knew it from the beginning, but now I'm hearing the reasons of why people are taking them out of school. I know that I made the right decision. And on another note, my son would be classed as someone who's got educational needs. Now, actually, the one-to-one that he gets from us and the way how he explores the world, and really, I would say it's led by his learning, is led by him, by his interest, what he wants to do. He's doing absolutely fantastic. And then in other areas like handwriting, for example, he's left-handed. In fact, he's ambidextrous. He can use both. I just think I'm not putting that pressure on him. I'm really not. We're practicing the handwriting. He can spell, he can read. You said about attainment. Okay, well, his reading age is much more advanced than he's 6. He's got a much higher reading age than a 6-year-old. I know that if he was in mainstream school, they would either try and, because they do this, they try and pull them back and put them on that level where they feel they're supposed to be, or they just leave them to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I see that across the home ed community that I'm in. We buy in a lot of our home ed work just because I'm very, very busy, and it's much easier for me to buy it in from a provider. And Sophia can then just do what she needs to do, and I can help. But across that community, it's really staggering when you look on the social media of the support group, the community group, and you see what the kids are actually achieving. It is miles beyond what they would be achieving in a mainstream school, because we've got the child. The thing, I think it's not about the schools doing anything wrong particularly, but it's the fact that the class sizes are so huge,
so big,
not getting individualized attention. And because the curriculum is very standardized and you've got to be at a certain level at this point in time, if you're not that, there's no room to accommodate you. They can't accommodate you. So at home, she can do whatever level she wants. Like yesterday, she did a GCSE level unit. She's 9.
Because if she can, then she can. Because what I was going to say is we have a lot of fun with language. You spoke about cultural experiences with your daughter when you went to the different country there. Zenta is mixed race and his father is Hungarian. So he's speaking another language anyway. Okay, so never mind about what we're doing. Then I'm finding that for us to be learning Spanish together, he gets it very quickly. So again, it's one of those things where I do think, wow, we're doing our thing. What we're not doing at the moment, and I can't wait until I'm in a position to do this, is more travel. I really want to take Zenta to different places. I've met a home educating. In fact, she's an author, and she supports others to publish their books. But a home educating traveling family who, their boy and girl have got that, experience of the world through language, through culture, through, just being open-minded to understand that it's a big, wide world out there. And yes, we can learn things in the classroom, but actually, when you are really at the heart of something and getting that first-hand experience, that's the best teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to do the same. I think with Sophia, we want to see some different places, because it does really change their perception of what's out there. It's much easier for her, and I'm the same. I think when I started going to places like Italy and looking at all the different places, it made much more sense to me by seeing it than it would if I was reading it in a book at school. I wouldn't have had the same connection with it. So when I read about Pompeii, I was like, God, this is really boring. But actually, when I went to Pompeii, I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. And that was the difference, because I was there and I could see it.
Yeah.
It had a whole different dynamic to it. So yeah, definitely traveling
Oh, it's
is good.
brilliant. So we have to, and I've written here, thinking outside the box. It's really important that, you know, again, when I'm thinking about Zenta and the way how he learns, I've met a home educating, she's a tutor actually. Her son, she took her son, sorry, she's a primary school head teacher, former, but she took her own son out of school, the school system, because he is on the autistic spectrum and she just wasn't happy with how he was being educated. So she educated him at home, and now she's using her knowledge and she does some other work as well, and she's bringing that into the home ed community. So there's different ways that we can do this, but I've written down the word alignment, because you are correct. It has to be that alignment of how, for me personally, how the little one is learning. Like you said, with your own daughter, she wanted to do something that was actually, you know, set for an older child. Well, no, if she wanted to have a go at it, why not? Why put her in a small box when she's saying, no, I'm ready to take on bigger things? So it's very exciting. So yeah, I just really wanted us to touch on that, because I feel like the more that we speak about it as home educating families, I'm not saying we're necessarily encouraging other people, but why should we hide this? Why should we be ashamed of this? Why should we make other people, you know, like I said, people at first was like, oh, what are you doing? Now they don't say that, because they know that there are a lot more home educating families out there.
Yeah, and I had the same really. I mean, from my own family, actually, my parents were very against it. They were saying things like, she needs to be in school because of social interaction, and she needs to do this and she needs to do that. And it was a misunderstanding, again, a lack of awareness. Sophia is an actor, so she's always socializing because she's in 2 different acting groups. Last night she was auditioning for a part in a show with some children. She goes to music lessons, tap dancing and ballet, where she's interacting with other kids. So she's very socially confident. So again, this was a misunderstanding of home ed, I think. And my ex-husband similarly had some quite deep reservations, because he's been kind of almost quite indoctrinated into an academic system.
Conditioned.
He feels like this is the only way, this is the way, there is no other way. And he was very sort of, I will let you do it, but I must tell you that I'm not happy. I am not happy with this. And then I started sending the reports, because we get a report from our home ed provider each, but it's biannual, so you get 2 a year. And I started sending the reports of how much she was flourishing and her achievements and how great she was doing. And he went silent really quickly, and I never had any more objections. But it's almost like they need the proof. It's something within them. When we talk about whose stuff is it anyway, Vanessa, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is their stuff. So they're coming at this from their own background and their own conditioning of what they believe is correct, and they're not able to see another way. So it's really difficult for us, because we're saying, well, we want to try another way, and we're being shot down. And I found that really hard, because I was like, but now I'm like, well, that's not my stuff. We're just doing what works for us.
Yeah.
This is what works for us over here. If school works for you, that's great. That's not a problem. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
But my stuff is telling me that I need to do it this way. So it's, how you break down that dynamic again, isn't it?
You know, I love that. And the main thing is that the individual boy or girl is happy. This is the thing. I've actually had, I think, a few stories of home educating families where the little one said, no, I want to go to school. And they were like, okay, then. So it can actually work the other way as well. So it's all about child-centered education. That's how it is for me anyway. So, you know, Emma, we've spoken about you as a hypnotherapist, about you as an author, about you as a home educating mother. I really want to touch on like the future in terms of you've come as part of the Seeds community. So we've been working together, not that long actually, but you're part of my SOW program. which stands for success, opportunities, and well-being. So we've had some really interesting chats. I mean, is there anything that you're wanting to share in terms of like where you see the future of your business and how you're intending to flourish?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for the rest of this year because it's going to be about promoting not just my adult book, but also my latest children's book, which came out this year. I have got an in-person launch event for that one up in Norwich in October. And that book is about how we can pass our own messages to our children and how children can internalize it. It is written as a poem, so it is a picture book for kids, but it's for kids who might be feeling the weight of those messages that aren't actually meant for them, and that we might inadvertently pass down. So I'm really excited for that one because it is a really personal book for me, because I had the same messages when I was a kid, and I know how much that can really damage and hurt children. So I'm excited for the books. I'm also now an accredited AQA trainer for children. So I'm able to teach emotional well-being certificates through the AQA scheme. And the reason I branched into that is because I see a lot of children who aren't in mainstream ed for many reasons, who are not getting, they're feeling like they're a failure because of those messages they hear from the teachers. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could teach them a bit of emotional well-being and they get a certificate at the end of it, which makes them realise they're not a failure. And look, they've got an award now and they were capable of it all along, but they had the wrong message. So I've got 27 AQA emotional well-being courses that I run out for kids in all kinds of things, from anger management to sleep hygiene, confidence building, understanding mental health, just masses of different courses that I can do. I do creative writing. I really want to branch out into that next year and start doing creative writing for well-being with children, and do some workshops around how can we use creative writing to keep us well. How can we use and tap into that to connect with what's inside of us at a deeper level. So that's another thing that I've got that I really want to push on with next year once I get my books promoted and sorted. And just I want to grow the therapy business. I want to reach more people that need me, and just help people. Yeah. So I'm really excited.
Wow, it's so exciting. I mean, just on that last point, self-help, it is an industry within itself. So you will be reaching people even if they just buy your book and you're not directly working with them as a therapist. So I wanted to say that. But also, it's so exciting. You know, I'm really enjoying supporting you and working with you and having you as part of our community, because you are absolutely flying, Emma. So, you know, I just really wanted to say to everybody, please take a look at Emma's book launch information. I'm going to leave the link underneath here. We're going to take this podcast and have little snippets, so I'll be pushing that out on Emma's behalf. It's going to be a brilliant evening. Like I said, you're going to get the conversation. You'll be able to ask Emma questions, and she's got some fantastic information in the raffle and other discounts that she's prepared for you. So, and then, like you said, you've also got another book launch face-to-face coming up in October. So she's a very busy woman. Emma, in the meantime, like, I will be putting these links underneath, but if anybody wanted to check out your information, your website, where would they find you?
So my business is called Open Skies Hypnotherapy. So if you type in Open Skies Hypnotherapy, it should come up with my website. It's called Open Skies just really quickly because I have a philosophy that behind every dark cloud, every bleak day, if we can just find a little chink, we can let the light back in. So that's why I called it Open Skies. So yeah, it's another personal thing for me. It's finding the chinks, and it doesn't have to be a big chink. It can be the smallest thing to just let the light back in, and that there's always hope behind the clouds. So yeah, that's
I love that. I didn't know that was the message, but I love that message. Thank you so much for sharing. So Emma, I'm going to let you go, but like I said, we're going to put all the information about the book launch underneath. So that's next Thursday, the 25th of September at 7 p.m. You do need to register to be part of that so that Emma can get that link out to you. So we'll leave the information. But, please follow Emma. I'm live streaming here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Keep up to date with what she's doing, because as she's explained, there's so much things that are coming up. And I feel this was a question I was going to ask you, actually. Let's just talk about this quickly. What happens, Emma, if we don't deal with our trauma? What happens?
And what happens if we don't deal with our trauma? We go through life not reaching our full potential. We carry a lot of emotional baggage that can actually also affect our physical well-being. Trauma is held within the body. This is a recognised scientific fact. If you look up Bessel van der Kolk, who is one of the most eminent people in this area, he talks a lot about, and in fact he's written a book called The Body Holds the Score, and that talks about how our body can hold trauma, and actually the influx of conditions now that we didn't have years ago, like fibromyalgia, like celiac disease, like all of these allergies, are all coming from unresolved trauma. And if we can actually take steps to deal with trauma, we very often will find our physical health improving quite significantly. If we don't deal with it, unfortunately, it does eat away at your physical well-being. It does lead you to be unable to function properly in the world in terms of relationships, opportunities that you might not go for, all kinds of things. So I feel like everyone kind of owes it to themselves to start to just be a bit curious about it. You don't have to deal with it. Like we said, it's about small chinks. It's not about going at it full pelt. That can be really frightening. If you start somewhere, maybe it's just picking up the book. Maybe it's just being curious enough to go, hang on, I'm going to have a look at this and just take it at my own pace, step by step, and be curious about what she says. Because it will change your life. I can, and I'm a testament to it, because I've dealt with my own trauma and I am a different person now. I'm a much more emotionally free person than I used to be. I don't get angry. I don't get frustrated. I don't fly off the handle. I used to think the whole world was against me, and now I don't see that, because it isn't true. So this is what you can achieve if you are prepared to put the work in.
Oh, I love that. And what a lovely place to close our conversation. Emma, it's been an absolute joy to speak with you. And like I said, to work with you on this exciting journey. I will have you back on another episode where we'll talk about your journey in terms of the SEEDS framework. But today it was really about the book and to get the message out about this book launch that you're doing. So Emma, thank you so much. Everybody who's tuned in, we have had people watching us on the live. Thank you so much for watching the live. If you are watching the replay, please leave a comment so that we know that you were here. Give us a like, thumbs up, repost this as well. Please, let's help Emma to get this message out. But we appreciate you and your time. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.